my beautiful motorheads, it's Annick. Have you guys heard of Royal Enfield's Build.Train.Race series? Well, it's an all-women's race series both in flat track and in road racing. Today's guest is Miranda Cain, and she's the 2025 second place finisher in the road racing series. Miranda shares with us what it's like to race in this series. I think you'll be inspired by Miranda's tenacity, scrappiness, and determination to win. If you know of a woman who should be in this race series, send her this video to inspire her. Applications for the 2026 race season are open right now, and the deadline is December 1st, 2025. There will be a link below for the application. This is an amazing series that fully supports women in racing, and I think more women should be doing it. So spread the love, spread the word, send them the link. And right now, let's start with meeting Miranda Cain. Well, Miranda, congratulations. You have gotten a podium finish for the year. And if you could tell everyone what that was.
I got second in the Build.Train.Race championship.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I do think it's pretty awesome that in the background you have all the, I've always wanted to just wear one of them once, and you have basically a collection.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. Like I was like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do with them all, but I am still sourcing ideas on how to display the trophies and the hats, and make it symbolic. And I have some other knickknacks that I'd like to incorporate. And it's just like I'm not super creative when it comes to that stuff, and like part of me just wants to throw it on my shelf, and the other part's like, no, like gotta make it look nice. Like it's 2
You have to
years
show
of
it
like
off.
a make experience. Yeah, so it's just in there for now.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about like how did you get involved with the whole Royal Enfield build train race?
Yeah. So I think kind of goes back to just how I got into racing in the first place, and that was just a friend reached out to me to try closed course, like a track day. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, and loved it. And then I got my license later that year, and then met other people. And one of them happens to be one of the ladies that was like an OG BTR racer, and got to know her. And I was like, wow, like that program's super cool. And that's kind of like what I'm doing, like myself, was trying to do my own work and like be independent and like learn all of this stuff that I didn't know. And I was like, that kind of sounds like a program for me. And so I applied, didn't get accepted. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I still like racing. I'll still keep doing it. Applied again next year. Didn't get accepted again. I was like, okay, that hurts a little bit, but it's a really tough, thing to get into. Is a lot of ladies that are, applying that, are equally excited and want to be a part of it as well. So I was like, all right, third year, hopefully this is it. And I got in. But throughout those 3 years, I kind of kept racing and learning, and got to a point where they thought I was a good fit. And yeah, then I did the program for 2 years, and here I am.
So is it considered you're a graduate now? Because it's a 2-year program, right?
Yeah. So at least when what came on, and currently it might change in the future, it's a 2-year contract, which as much as people ask me like, oh, do you wish like it was longer? Do you wish you could stay? I'm like, well, yes, I wish I could do this program forever and ever and ever because it's awesome. But no, because it opens up spots for additional women to come into racing at a professional level with that kind of support. So I was like, as much as I wish I could like stay forever, I was like, I can see how a 2-year contract really makes the most sense instead of even a 3-year contract. Because you kind of spend that first year like really absorbing everything you can, and then that second year you can really build off of it and put to work everything that you worked on the year prior. So 2 years, while it's short, I do think that it's a good choice.
Now, do you think that having had tried for 3 years and then finally getting into the program, do you feel like those 3 years allowed you to grow as a racer and even in a better position to be part of the program and race in the program?
Absolutely. A lot of times when I talk to people about like my journey, I'm like, yeah, like I knew nothing. Like when I started racing, like I didn't really understand. Like I knew that you should flush your brake fluid, but I didn't quite understand like the mechanics behind like how to flush your brake fluid. Like it just, whatever. Like I could change my oil, but it's like taking my wheels off. I hadn't really done that, and so like there was so much that I just didn't know. And for this program, like you're your mechanic. So while there is a wide variety of like experience on and off track, so whether that's your experience riding, racing, and then your experience on mechanical aspects, it's a whole spectrum of what people know and what people are actually learning for the first time. I think those 3 years of me working towards being in this program also allowed me to take on these projects. So my second year of racing over the winter, I did my first build. I converted a street bike to a race bike myself. And my first race bike I had bought that was already prepped. So I did basically no work, just maintenance. And so that winter I was like, oh, there's so much that you don't know until you're kind of forced to learn it. So yeah, those 3 years of me trying to get in, while I was very bummed the second year that I, wasn't selected, um, it was a good choice, just in terms of personal growth. So
Things happen for a reason.
exactly, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit like why well, let's back up. When you first got into the racing and you kind of got into it because of people you know, what was that first race bike you bought?
My first race bike was a 1999 SV 650. It was already race prepped, so I didn't really have to do anything to it, but it was passed through the paddock quite a bit. Several people had owned it prior to me owning it. And the last owner, or the guy I bought it from, he was 70 years old, getting out of racing. Um, he'd kind of he took good care of it, but because of its age, there was a lot of things that were kind of MacGyvered on, and just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll use this piece of aluminum to make this homemade bracket, and I was like, okay, like, because I didn't know, and so like looking back, I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad it ran when I bought it because, going later to, do additional maintenance and just projects and upgrades, I was like, what? What is this from? Like, why is this here? So, yeah, first bike was a very well loved ST650.
And then which street bike did you make into a race bike?
So I had bought a 2015 Yamaha R3. So I kind of went down a class, um, which probably was the best decision, just because you really learn racecraft that way. There is no power to carry you around the track. It's all in the rider inputs. So while that first year on that bike after riding the SV was horrible, I was slower. I was struggling more. I really questioned why I sold the SV, even though it was, 15 years older. I was like, I thought I was better on that. And then by the end of that year, I was like, okay, well, now I'm faster on a bike that's way smaller, and I have a lot more understanding of, inputs and how to go around a track faster. So while it was a hard learning curve, it was very important. But yeah, it's one of the easier bikes to convert to race because they're small, you don't really have to do much. They're really hardy. I bought it with 2,000 miles on it, and now it has another 5,000 race miles on it. So it's still running. It's still trucking along. But yeah.
So at the time that you ended up applying for the Royal Enfield program, I looked into it and it's the Continental GT 650, which is a way bigger, heavier motorcycle. So
Yes.
maybe you can tell like what was it like getting on to that like after the R3?
Weird. Very weird. It was they hold their weight very differently. So the R3, I would say, is very similar to a typical sport bike where it kind of carries its weight a little higher up. It's a lot more flickable in corners, and it's also just overall smaller, lighter. And then you hop on the GT 650, and while it's narrow and small in that sense, it's very long. Its weight is kind of carried in the bottom, and the engine itself kind of sticks out quite a bit. So there were some girls that had an issue of dragging the actual engine cases while racing. And also it's a different bike with how it handles. So while it takes a lot for, at least it took me a while to set up suspension, because that's just something that I've never been an expert on. It's something I was like, you know what, I'll pay people to set up that aspect of the bike. I can buy parts and I can put them on, but like dialing in suspension is another level for me. And so if something's not set up, it makes handling a bike that much harder. And especially as you get bigger and heavier, like the reactions of inputs get a little more bigger. And so just understanding how, the frames flex and how the suspension inputs and loading everything is different. It's kind of a fun part of it. The first year I probably struggled the most with, I would go to the track before races, ride my R3, learn the track, feel like I have a really good sense of it, and then I'd go out on the Enfield next week. I'm like, nothing's working. I was like, what's going on? Like, I just rode here. Like, I feel like this isn't right. Like, I feel like I can't get around here. Like how I was on the R3, and it took me a bit of time to really be able to take the data and the experience on the R3 at those tracks and translate it in a way that works for the Enfield. And a lot of times it's not on the bike inputs. It's more about what you're doing, where you are, where you're going, instead of, oh yeah, this is my brake worker here. It's like, nope, these are different bikes. You have to adjust from there. And that that difference there is took me a bit to kind of recognize what I was doing wrong and how to correct it. But yeah, ultimately it's, you can't really compare them to each other just because they're so different, but they're a lot of fun. Both of them, like equally. I don't know if I could choose one or the other.
Can you explain to people like how the program's set up? I think a lot of people are aware that this program exists, but they don't really know what the nuts and bolts of it are. So I know that it's all women, and I know you're all on
Yeah.
the same motorcycles. But
Mhm.
how's the whole program structured? Like, how do they give you bikes? Like, do you have to buy the bike? Like, are you on the same bike for the 2 years? Do you get factory support? Like, how does all that work?
Yeah. So currently how it's set up, or at least like what I was set up for my tenure with the program was, I guess how the name of the program is. You build the bike, you train on the bike, and you race the bike. So for the build, you are provided a bike from Royal Enfield. You do not have to buy it. And then there are program sponsors that input in parts, maybe a stipend, gear. And for our build, we take a week, go down to Texas. We were able to use, it's used Bike Direct, which is like a motorcycle dealership, but they also have like a shop space, like a typical dealer would. They clear it out for us, all of us go in and build our bikes together. And it's kind of a structured program. And there are lead mechanics there that are there for support, but ultimately you're doing everything. So you're chopping parts off the frame, you're converting your wheels, you're, changing out your shift star in the clutch. So you're kind of pulling off engine cases. They will talk us through it, for especially because the experience level with mechanics is so great. They don't expect everybody to know everything, but it's up to you to do it. So you get your sheet, you get your parts, get your bike, you get your bench, and go to town. You get 6 days basically. Oh, I think we had 5 days of actually like wrenching, and those are like long days. It's like you're at the shop by 8:30. Sometimes we're not leaving until 6. And it's a really long day. You're constantly working on the bikes. You have like lunch break, but um, you know, that's what it is. And so in that aspect, parts are provided, bikes provided, you have to provide your labor. And then hopefully by the end of the week, you have a race ready bike. which all of us did. So no one failed that part. And then from there, they have a training session. So it was also in Texas. We went to the Crescent Motorsports Park or Motor Ranch, Crescent Motorsport Ranch, I think is what it is. But it's just a small course, and they kind of sequester off part of the course, and then they let other people use the other part of the course. And we go out there and we do drills on the bikes. We kind of learn how they handle. My favorite aspect of the training was we were able to take these pretty big suspension changes and say, like, okay, we're going to add 5 turns of compression. You might feel the bike do this. Go out, do a couple laps, come in. You go out, you'd be like, oh, wow, yeah, like I was trying to turn and the bike didn't want to really turn. Or, oh, yeah, like the bike kind of dumped into the corner really quickly, like almost too quickly. Or it's like, oh, yeah, like when I was on the brakes, like the front was kind of like, stuttering. It wasn't very smooth. I didn't feel planted. And so it was really cool taking that aspect of suspension adjustments and seeing like the real world outcomes of stuff like that. So we were able to kind of take that knowledge and then apply it to the races and be like, hey, like I need to make this change. Or we could go talk to the suspension professionals and say, like, this is what I'm feeling, this is where I'm feeling it, this is, what I've noticed about it. What would you suggest? These are my settings. And then they're able to come back and say, like, oh yeah, we would adjust this here. And so that training aspect, not only is it about the bikes, but it's also kind of like the other side of racing, which is the maintenance, talking with professionals within the paddock and just kind of having that other aspect, and being able to convey that information. And then from there, we do the races. So Build.Train.Race is within the Moto America series. And so we had 4 races or 4 rounds both years. And at each round, we have 2 races. So throughout the weekend, we get a 20-minute free practice, a 20-minute qualifying 1, 20-minute qualifying 2. And then we have 2 races, which the races are about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So all in, it's less than 2 hours of track time. We have to go out there, we have to put down our fastest time, and then we have to compete at a track that a lot of us haven't been to before. And so that's the other aspect of the series, is just coming up with the process that you need to learn a track, learn it fast, and understand what changes you need to make to be able to go out there and perform your best. And also stay on top of yourself, of just being mentally prepared, physically prepared, and just, it's a long day, at the racetrack. And there's a lot of adrenaline. There's a lot of fans. There's racing going on. It's super exciting. And being able to manage your adrenaline throughout the whole day, that honestly, for race weekends, that was really hard for me. Just because I was like, okay, we're going out in the morning, like, let's go. And then it's like, okay, now I got 5 hours that I need to kill. Like, I have some bike maintenance, or, I could do this, or I want to make these changes. But then it's like, oh, and now I still got 3 more hours. And it's like, oh, I still have to like mentally stay in it to be able to race. So that's kind of like the walkthrough of like how the program works. But the behind the scenes is it's available to women within Canada, US, and Brazil now. And there's typically 12 spots. My first year we had 13. I think this 2026, I think there's only going to be 11. But yeah, typically 12 spots. We are supported by Royal Enfield, so we have factory support, and we're all on the same team until the helmets go on.
Yeah.
So
Well, what's the competition like behind the scenes?
yeah, yeah, and it's great racing in the sense of we're on the same bikes, we have the same parts. The only changes we can really make throughout the weekend is our gearing and our suspension and ourselves. But the bikes themselves, like the platform is very even, so it really comes down to the skill of the racer, and it's some close, tight racing where, it's a lot could happen, in 2 laps, and you never quite know what's going to happen or who you're going to be out there with. I think, last year in 24, it was like second through sixth, sometimes seventh, depending on the track. It was a constant shuffle of who was where, what battle was going on, and kind of just like, oh my gosh, like we're all in this. And then this year it was really similar, for or first through sixth typically, it was like we were all battling. We were all pretty tight, like something might have happened in the middle and there'd be a little bit of a break, but it's still like everybody's shuffling spots and like everyone is having like these really good races and these really close battles. And we're doing it on bikes that are not, race bikes. It's something that is cool in that aspect. If the sense, these aren't built to be going through corners as fast as they can go. They're built as street bikes, and we're doing something with them that we maybe shouldn't, but we're doing it anyways.
Well, it makes for really fun spectating. And, on your Instagram, you show a lot of what's going on in the paddocks and stuff. And it always warms my heart to see these like little girls like coming up and like wanting to get signatures and take photos with you. Like, it's just, I'm like,
Yeah,
yes, like this is how we get the next generation interested in racing and like, move the
absolutely.
sport forward. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that was our first round in 24 for me. It was a line of people. I was like,
You're
whoa.
famous.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, I knew I was a fan, but like I was a fan because I wanted to be in it. Like not only are having young women or young girls even just like be like, there's a lot of girls. Like, oh my gosh, like they're all girls. Like, wow, like are these your bikes? And then but at the same time, you're having, loads of older men come up and be like, this program's really cool. Like, I think this is so awesome what you guys are doing. And you're like, awesome, like, thanks. And so, like, just the wide range of
Yeah.
the fan support was incredible. And I think, my thoughts on like the race paddock and racing in general is there's a place for everybody if you want to be there. So if you want to be there, like there's room. If you want to race, if you want to support, if you want to spectate, like come. Like you are welcome. You should be there if you want to be there. And so it's really cool kind of being on the other side of just being like, people are here for us. And so being able to support and encourage, like you said, the next generation was kind of humbling. Just being like, oh, wow, okay. Like, there's a little bit of pressure here.
Well, I'm sure you handle it cool as a cucumber.
I try.
So now that you're the season's over, and what are you race wise? What are you moving into? Like, what's the next phase, Miranda?
So I don't have anything solid yet for 26. There's kind of two opportunities I'm exploring. Kind of comes down to recovery of this thing.
Yeah, I was going to bring that
with
up, and I was going to see how much we saw it like.
yeah,
So maybe you might want to say
it
what happened. What happened?
no, yeah. So I crashed at the last club round of racing here in Minnesota and unfortunately broke my radial and ulna to the point where I needed surgery. So now I have a plate and 10 screws in my radial. So I'm in PT now. Today's 2 weeks post surgery. So it's feeling pretty good, but it's broken. So I was supposed to go to Europe for a test, which has now been postponed. So depending on that and how that goes will be dependent on what I do in 26. So whether that's the women's championship in Europe or Twins Cup with Moto America. Those are the two options. So
I think those are both
yeah, we'll
really
see.
good options.
Yeah, and there's a lot of logistics behind that, but I'm looking to keep racing, so that's what I'm working towards.
I love those goals. How do you get the support from other people in your life to do this?
Like my family and
Yeah,
my
'cause
boyfriend or
well, all of it. That was kind of like a maybe not a very clear question, but a lot of people probably don't realize like racing is incredibly expensive. Besides the time commitment, it's very,
Mhm.
very, very expensive.
Yes.
And it takes a village, to make all that happen. Like you were saying earlier that, if people want to be involved in the paddocks, like come on board. And I think, what I was reading into that is like, all the teams need help. You even need more help than whoever will show up. So how
Yeah.
have you been able to make it work?
Yeah, so I think my position is not as intense as maybe a typical team with Moto America, because with Build.Train.Race, we're kind of taken care of. Like we fly in, we show up, we race. Our bikes are transported for us. The team logistics are put in place. Like we don't have to get our own hotel rooms. They transport us from the hotel to track. They, take care of our food. So like it's all encompassing with the program. Whereas other teams, they don't really have people. I mean, like there's somebody that has that job for the bigger teams, but like the independent privateers, they might have the racer and maybe 3 other guys, and they have to figure out their hotels. They have to get a rental car. They have to get their bike to the track. They have to get all their tools to the track. They have to get their mechanics to the track. And so while I haven't dealt with that side of things specifically for the national level, I have done it for my club racing, which I'm fortunate that I don't live too many hours away from the track. It's just about 2 hours away. I've done as much as I can to kind of pinch a penny here, pinch a penny there, and probably a big cost is typically tires. So with the R3, fortunately, it doesn't go through tires as quickly as, say, an R1 or a liter bike. So I could use a set to maybe 2 sets a weekend of tires, which if I were to buy those new, that's still like $800 a weekend. And that's not my race fees. That's not the food. That's not, where I'm sleeping or anything like that. But part of the Build.Train.Race program was we were able to take our used tires home if we had a way to do that. And so I took as many tires as I could. And for the last 2 years, I've been using takeoffs for my club racing. So that was a way that I saved money in that sense. While it's not the most competitive in the way, but it was the way that I was able to continue to race every single weekend club wise. I sleep in my trailer, so that saves money there. So all of that goes to say, like, it is expensive. It's very expensive. And I work 2.5 jobs to afford racing. I've kind of come into the mindset of I work to race because this is what I'm doing right now. Don't have too many other responsibilities like kids. It's me and my boyfriend. He's super supportive of me racing, but just mentally, not monetarily. So yeah, it's on me. And I have a couple local businesses that have helped me out here or there with a sponsorship in return for me advertising for them with my race program. I do have a sponsorship with a local dealership where I get a discount on parts. So that helps there. So for me, a lot of it's kind of penny pinching, if you could say, just like saving where I can so that I'm not burning myself out too early to not continue to race. But like you said, yeah, it is expensive.
Yeah.
But priorities.
Well, I appreciate you being real about it. Like I try to be transparent on this podcast so that people kind of understand really like what it takes to do the thing that we're most passionate about, which is riding motorcycles in whatever aspect. So I appreciate your transparency with that.
Yeah.
Those 2.5 jobs obviously allow you to take off some time to be able to go race the series. So are any of those jobs related to motorcycling?
Yeah, my day job, my full-time job, is, we'll call it a hybrid, but I usually work from home outside of race weekends, but I am a operations manager for a race team, which in turn has another business that is a full service shop. And so I do a lot of the admin aspects of the shop side, and then I do the logistics, and the operations for the race team. So throughout the season, I'm booking, kind of like what I was saying before, where teams have someone that books all that stuff. I get the rental cars, I book the flights or try to find times and coordinate with everybody so we can all get to the airport relatively around the same time. Booking like hotels or Airbnbs, or just accommodations, and getting like kind of like behind the scenes stuff sorted. And I do contracts and stuff like that. But in turn, they're very understanding about racing and they're very supportive. And if, I'm like, hey, I'm going to the track today, kind of last minute, they're like, cool, see you tomorrow or see you whenever, and it's really cool in that sense. Just being you know, with a company that kind of understands the grind that goes into racing and trying to be in it as much as you can while also not skirting responsibilities. So,
Right.
yeah.
And it also lends to you also learning about like what you're going to need to do next year when you take either one
Yeah.
of those amazing opportunities that I know is going to happen. So I ask everybody this: how many motorcycles do you own?
Currently, I own, I'll give you two numbers. There's,
Running and non-running.
well, yeah, I was gonna say in my garage versus like total ownership right now.
Okay.
So I have 6 in my garage that are mine, and then I have an additional 2 that are at my parents' that one's a project, and I guess currently it's not running, and then the other one was my very first bike, which my younger brother is just now starting to ride. He just got his endorsement. So he's been riding that one, but currently I have 2 R3s, one Aprilia 457. I have a scooter, a Z125, and then my Royal Enfield.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So outside of racing, do you have time for any other interests?
No.
Actually, sort of
No,
thought that might be
yeah, I've kind of gone headfirst into the shallow end with racing. It's taken up quite a bit of my time, even in the winter. This past winter, I was going out to California once a month to do training in California. Obviously, the weather's better in Southern California during the winter than it is in central Minnesota. But outside of that, too, I was ice racing. And so kind of chosen to do racing in all aspects. I used to camp a lot. I used to do cross country motorcycle trips, which, that's like a week or so. And now it's like, well, no, I can't take a week off to just go across the country on my motorcycle because I need that week to go racing here and here. And so, yeah, it's kind of taken a step back from a lot of those extra activities of, which it's not even about money at that point. It's just time, just having the time to still take care of myself, come home, see our cat.
Yeah, this is the season you're in. Embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're only young once. Not saying you
Yeah.
have to be young to race, but
No.
responsibilities and
Yeah,
priorities do change.
they do, and it as you also get older, your risk taking starts to change a little bit. So
Yeah.
really, like, take advantage of this. I mean, this program is what you just came out of is amazing, and like your experience you have is amazing, and you're setting such a great example for people of like what's possible and
Yeah.
like what could be done. So it's great. Live it.
Yeah. You're going to apply, right?
I wish if it was like 20 years ago, I would have.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
I would have been all about it. I totally would have been all about it. So maybe I'm living vicariously through you is really what's happening.
There you go. There you go.
Miranda, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And good luck in all your decision making for 2026 in a very healthy and short recovery.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. And to everyone else, ride smart. Ciao.